So many superstar teenagers, I cannot count them. What's going on, friends, and welcome on back to the channel Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. As always, I do hope you're doing well, mate. I do hope that, and welcome back to Chelsea news. Lots to talk about in the Chelsea sphere, despite it being the international break. But here we are, back again, here to show some love to Dastan Satpayev. I believe that's how you pronounce the 17-year-old centre forward from Kazakhstan, dunking on Belgium, who were like not so long ago ranked the #1 team in the world. Of course, there will be ample Estevao loving in today's video. Scoring at the Emirates, of course, for Brazil. He scored at the Emirates before Noni Madueke. Lol lol, laughter track. Also, an update on Jamie Gittens' injury, and amidst this, should we start Estevao now, or are we handling him perfectly? I wanted to have a bit of fun in today's video at the end, and build/talk about what I think Chelsea's strongest lineup will be come the end of the campaign, which is actually, you think it's kind of easy, but there are talking points in there. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me. Thank you as always for supporting the content here on YouTube. I'm really grateful. I do see all the nice comments. I'm feeling the love at the moment, so I'm very thankful for that. So thank you for all your sort of continued support. If you want to support me, you can like and subscribe, hype the video up if you've got any points to spare. If you do choose to subscribe, hit the bell, and of course we are very close now to 200,000. They are drip feeding in. We will get there. I believe we'll get there together. The community will reach that target, so thank you for that. A quick bit of housework. I did do a couple of videos yesterday. I usually do one a day, but I did 2 yesterday. Classic normal format Chelsea news like I'm doing right now, and I did a reaction to the the temporary sponsorship front of shirt main sponsor news later on in the day, so do go check out those uploads. Not got the most amount of traction, which I'm kind of shocked about, because I thought there'd be a bit of interest in the front of shirt sponsor situation, but hey, it's the YouTube algorithm. It's very, very hard to decipher. But if you want to check out the morning's video, I put a bit of work into it, and we do have some fun looking at Palmer's statistics, which we haven't done for a little while, and I feel like his return, which could be imminent, it's like a nice positive reminder of his statistics, like comparing up with the likes of De Bruyne, and how much he helps Chelsea. So do go check that out if you get a chance to do so. Right, let's get into it and start off with the young striker that's coming to Chelsea that I always forget about. Right, Dastan Satpayev, I believe that's how you say it. His goal against Belgium last night means he's now Kazakhstan's youngest ever goal scorer. A great moment for the 17-year-old. Of course, he'll be joining Chelsea Football Club in the summer. Now, he is their superstar, despite only being 17 years old, starting for the national team in like high-profile competitive games against the likes of Belgium, who are a international superpower in the football world. And his goal saw them get a point or a draw against Belgium, which is a really, really good result. He scored in the Champions League qualifiers as well. Like, this is a child. He's I don't know how long he's been 17 for. Well, if he's joining in August 2026, he must have been 18 by then. Point is, he's very young. Yeah, he's very, very young. And when we're speaking about links to, Chelsea trying to reignite interest in the likes of Endrick, a very young striker, you think, well, we've got so many young strikers as it is. Do you know what I mean? We've got this 17-year-old. We've got another 17-year-old scoring loads of goals at under 21 level, which of course is still a high level for a 17-year-old in Moeka. And of course we've got, even like in Mark Gu's 19, people are unsure with how much faith and trust to put in Mark Gu, but I think we all agree there's a talent there. And of course, Liam Delap is 23, which makes him far more senior, but actually, in the real footballing world, 23 is still a young striker, guys. Ask Robert Lewandowski and your Karim Benzema's of this world. And Harry Kane, I'm sure what they would do to be 23 again. What I would do to be 23 again. Anyway, I've made my peace with being 36. Let's move on, and let's speak about Estevao, Willian. That's right, dunking at the Emirates before Noni Madueke. 433 posted this. There's no stopping Estevao for Brazil in 20 2025, he's got 4 starts for the Brazil national team and 4 goals, still only 18 years old. And as you can see from that game yesterday, he won man of the match, playing with the likes of Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo. No, it's 18-year-old Estevao winning man of the match. Also, here's a quote from Ancelotti brought to you by Fabrizio Romano. Estevao has an incredible amount of talent. It's a surprise, this level at his age. He's good at finishing, he has a lot of magic, and he works very hard. I can say this, with Estevao, Brazil have a guaranteed future. And I'll add to that, Carlo, the former Chelsea coach, that with Estevao, Chelsea have a guaranteed future. Maybe you would have thought, well, we've already got that with Cole Palmer, but Estevao doing magic, club and country, baby. Unless we forget, the young man is contracted to Chelsea Football Club until 2033, and I imagine you would not be surprised if there was a year to extend on top of that as well. Of course, he'll just be in his late 20s at that point, so we're all hoping that he's going to have the career at Chelsea. Yeah, why not, eh? And he does seem like a proper gift from God. Absolutely sensational. I did post on my Instagram at Football Yannick if you're interested in following me there. Being called up for the Brazilian national team is, because they are an iconic, historic, cultural, massive international team, yeah? And they've always got attackers. They've always got amazing attackers. So to be called up as an attacker is an honor. To be called up as an attacker when you're 18 is insane. To be called up as an attacker when you're 18 and be a starter is mind-blowing, baby. And of course, he's performing at such a level. He's the best winning man of the match. He's Vinny Jr., who was threw his toys at the Prem when he didn't win the Ballon d'Or a couple of seasons ago. He's being massively outshone by Chelsea's 18-year-old winger. It's amazing, really. Of course, it reignites the conversation about whether to start him. I was just DMing Matisse, actually, speaking about it. He thinks he should be starting. A lot of people do. I'll sort of reiterate what I've said recently. I kind of align myself with what Liam Twomey said about, because it's working well now, people assume, you should just be starting him, when of course it could mean as well that he is being handled perfectly. I think you need to sort of widen the context of the situation in its entirety, and look at I know he's playing amazing, but he himself has spoken about how he was so nervous about Chelsea. How he wasn't coming in swinging his, so-and-so, good to go, I'm the best sort of thing. He was really, really nervous and apprehensive. Apparently he's quite shy. Of course, he doesn't seem to be on the pitch, but he's being well looked after, and I kind of trust they're doing the right thing. I do maintain my position, and that position is it will get to a point where you can't afford to not start him. People, again, to reiterate what Toomey said in that Athletic podcast, when Eden Hazard arrived at Chelsea, he was 3 years older than Estevao. He'd already carried a team to a title in a top 5 European league, where Liga is deceptively physical. The quality is nowhere near as good as the Premier League, of course, but it is physical and it was a bit more competitive back then. And he was sort of a little bit more seasoned and good to go, and he had a different sort of mental state, Hazard. He's a freaking boy. Of course, there's all this sort of banter and sort of, social media culture comparing Estevao to Lamine Yamal on social media. I mean, maybe, we'll see how good Estevao can be. But the thing is with Yamal, yes, he is a starter. Okay, and I think international football's different. That's why I think, Yamal starting for Spain and indeed Estevao starting for Brazil is a different thing than starting in the Premier League at a high level. Especially playing for Barcelona in La Liga. La Liga is not as physical or as fast as the Premier League. And he's also playing for Barcelona, again, this one of the two and a half superpowers that will just knock the ball around against much more inferior opposition. That is not the case in the Premier League. In the Premier League, Chelsea will be mixing, the middle class will have games against Chelsea and they'll beat us basically. So this is a different climate, a different kettle of fish, as they say over here in the kingdom. And basically, I do think he's being sort of handled well. I think by the end of the campaign, I think he will be a starter. He's already starting in some games as well. I think also you need to understand that Maresca isn't scared to start him. If Neto was injured, he'd start Estevao. But when he sees a senior, seasoned player like Pedro Neto that's been kicked loads in the Premier League for years, that is very intelligent, that works very, very hard on both flanks, and, you know, like I talk about, he sort of can retain the tactical instruction really well from the manager while he's there, and then you can bring on an absolute superstar talent against tired legs. It kind of makes the most sense for the manager. But, you know, if Neto's injured, I don't think he's going to, like, play Gittens over him on the right, or Garnacho, who we've seen play on the right in the Premier League. I think he turns to Estevao, so he can be trusted. But by the end of this campaign, I do wonder if he will be, you know, so comfortable, so settled. You know, his physical conditioning's improving, and there's like a must-win game, and Maresca turns to him, potentially. We'll see. Anyway, absolute, he's been making headlines, of course, after that performance yesterday in Brazil, and yeah, very, very exciting indeed. God, I hope we look after this boy, and he doesn't get injured. Right then, let's move on to the next part of this video and speak about Jamie Gittens. Of course, we know Garnacho's probably a starter at the moment on the left wing, but Jamie Gittens has contributed well, and he came off injured against England's under-21. So let's have a look then. The Sun have written the following. Chelsea fears have been eased after Jamie Gittens got the green light to stay with England's under-21s. Of course, he came off injured on the 2-0 victory against Ireland on Friday, where Tyreek George scored, of course. £48.5 million we paid for this boy. The fact how he's not being sent home and he's staying out with Lee Carsley will come as a relief to Maresca. Chelsea have already been rocked by a groin problem that forced fellow attacker Pedro Neto to withdraw from international duty with Portugal, and Cole Palmer is not expected to be fit to return for Burnley. We're hoping he'll be good for the big games coming, like Barcelona and Arsenal. This is positive news for Maresca. I know everyone is rightly being excited by Alejandro Garnacho, recent performances, you know, getting assists, performing really well at a high level, getting a lot of value in the final third, and working hard, doing, like, you know, nice celebrations, like pointing to Chelsea ground. Of course, lots and lots of Manchester United fans heavily rattled by Alejandro Garnacho, getting lots of negative stuff on the media, but it's going to happen, really. This is always happens, you know, same with Chelsea and Mason Mount, yada, yada, yada. It's just what's happened. When one defects from north to south or south to north, from blue to red, vice versa, there's always going to be a little bit of bad blood there. But yes, he's seemingly first choice at the moment, but like I said in recent videos, we can't forget about Jamie Gittens because he has performed really well. He's got a recent man of the match for us. He scored an absolute wonder goal for us, which turned out that to be the winner against Wolves in the Cup, which kept us in the competition. He's had moments where he's looked very, very good indeed. And of course, he's 21. It's very, very hard to forget how 21 is a young player. Because it is. It really is. I know we've got like 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds all over the gaff doing really positive stuff. But still, if you're 21, you can be given a break. We've recently referenced the situation with Mykhailo Mudryk, and I called him a young player, though he's going to be 25 soon. I mean, back in my day, if you were like 25 or under, you were a young player. If you were 21, you were definitely a young player. If you were 18, you needed to be protected. That's, you know, how it was. But of course, the times are changing. And, you know, one of the main things that this new Chelsea ownership said when they arrived and they purchased the club was they think youth is really, really undervalued. And they want to, you know, hoover it all up. And to be honest, they've been true to their word. That's what we've seen so far. Right then, so in terms of Chelsea's strength, our strongest team, that will of course perhaps create a conversation where some people will say one player should start, some people will say another player should start. But I've created a starting 11 that I think will be Chelsea's starting lineup at the end of the Premier League season. So when everyone's hopefully, touch wood, fit and returned, but it does create a talking point, and some people will make cases for other players, which is interesting. But let me put this lineup on the screen now for you guys to take a look at. So a sort of 4-2-3-1, and of course there's a lot of obvious names there, but some players I'm not entirely sure about. The back five I am sure about, and that is Robert Sanchez in goal, who so far has been playing pretty well, you must say. I'm going to judge him at the end of the season, but I must say, apart from that red card against Man United, he's generally been pretty good this season. The fullbacks are non-negotiables. They are Marc Cucurella and Reece James, and the centre-back partnership that Chelsea have long trying to be cultivating as the dynasty, Levi Colwill on the left and Wesley Fofana On the right, two young, high-profile, high-ceiling centre-backs that are different in the style, but complement each other really well, theoretically. Now, Caicedo, of course, is probably the first name on the team sheet. In fact, he is definitely the first name on the team sheet now. I don't even think that's up for discussion. Enzo Fernandez. Now, this is an interesting one. There is a world where Maresca identifies a midfield function with Caicedo and maybe a Santos, who again is an amazing player, or indeed a Romeo Lavia, who's never available due to his fitness. And maybe there's a functionality there where, you know, Lavia becomes too good to drop by the end of the season if he does get a run of games. There actually is a world where that happens, I think, even if it's less likely than Fernandez starting. Of course, Enzo Fernandez has been broadly excellent for Chelsea the last sort of 12 months, I'd say. And beyond that, maybe. He's a leader, he scores, he assists, he runs, he leads. He's in my starting lineup. Right, quickly, before we talk about the front four, it is tricky, yeah? It's tricky because we've got loads of, you know, I right now have said to you, I think Neto should be starting for Chelsea. I've just been bigging up Jamie Gittens, although I do think Garnacho's a starter. Anything can happen by the end of the season. Gittens can score a couple of more Golazzos. Remember, he's profiled very, very sort of differently to Garnacho. Maresca heavily relies on wingers, and they both can take on, like, the mantle of bringing it to the opponent, but slightly differently. Like, Garnacho's better in running into space and assisting. You know, Gittens is better at 1v1. They both will score, like, golazzos, but almost different styles. So they are just very, very different styles of players, but both very good and both, like, 21 years old. I think they're both 21. I'll have to check that. But still, so again, anything can happen. And, but this is what I'm going for, so I'll put the lineup back on the screen. I'm going for Cole Palmer in the number 10. He's still Chelsea's best player, for all the correct Estevao loving. You know, it's Cole Palmer, he's the boy. He is our shining light. So he will start in the hole in the number 10 in the free role. Garnacho, I am going to put in the left wing over Gittens, but I'm open for, you know, Gittens doing well, or maybe Neto gets pushed over and has a really amazing run of games and, you know, consistently scores and assists. I'm open to any and all of it happening, but because it's the end of the season, you know, I'm hoping Cole is fit, and like I said earlier in the video, by the end of the season, maybe Estevao would have been so well integrated, so well, you know, acclimatized to the Premier League landscape that he is just an undeniable starter. But again, maybe it's the same. Maybe it's Neto that starts and Estevao comes off the bench with tired legs and, you know, he has to wait to the ripe old age of 19 years old before he's an undeniable starter. Who knows? But for the moment, I'm making him the starter there. And then I'm putting Joao Pedro up top. Now this is super tough, guys, because I've been pretty, like, consistent here on the channel that I don't actually like Joao Pedro as a striker. In fact, like, I find him really frustrating, but Liam Delap could be Chelsea's. It's so tough, right? Because although they're the same age, I think Joao Pedro is a better footballer than Liam Delap. And of course, maybe linking up with the likes of Estevao. We've seen him link up with other Chelsea players well. But I think Liam Delap is a more appropriate profile for Chelsea. I think we need a proper striker, and Liam Delap is a proper striker. So this is another one of those situations that I think is open. But because I want Garnacho, Palmer, and Estevao, I've just put, you know, Joao Pedro in front of them. Trying to hope, you know, with Palmer behind him, because we saw him play well with Cole Palmer in the Club World Cup final against PSG, that maybe having a Palmer on there and his Brazilian teammate Estevao, you know, will be enough for him playing as a striker to play really, really well. Because a lot of people have said that, myself included, and the Chelsea manager, that his best role is like a second striker, number 10. I would love for just a proper, seasoned, normal, old school profiled centre forward to get up there and score goals. You know, I've spoken about how I'd love a Harry Kane or something, but for the moment I feel like just getting those four talents on the pitch with each other would be a really good option. So I wanted to put that out there and put it to you guys and see how you feel about it. What do you think will be our starting lineup by the end of the season, where hopefully everyone's fit and firing? Do you agree with me, or do you see changes there? Please do let me know. Other than that, I'm going to wind down the video, so I'll thank you for joining me here on the channel today, and, you know, as always, thanks for supporting me. Thank you for liking, subscribing, hyping, sharing, all the other stuff, commenting, whatever else you can do to help me out, mate. Yeah, very much appreciated. And I do hope to see you back here on the channel. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the international football. Peace.
so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, baby.